What is up, everybody? This is our 5th episode of The Mental Shift. We're going to call this one How to Overcome Fear. So fear, I'm going to break this down for you. So fear is the most common trait amongst people that is hindering their success. It is everybody has fear. When people are going and pursuing their dreams, or they're going for that job interview, or they're hustling to make that next move, or they're looking to, start a new career path, or anything like that, the most common thing that'll cause anybody to fail is fear. A lot of the fear is fear to start. A lot of people are afraid to even begin down this path of doing whatever it is that they want to do. When they have that dream job that is, they're scrolling through the internet, they see that job posting for, web designer, for that software engineer, whatever it is, and that's their dream job. They have the skills, or they believe they have the skills that it takes to get that job done. A lot of times people won't even initiate the application process. They won't even start because they're afraid that they're either not going to get it, or they're not qualified enough, or so the fear is hindering them from even starting. It's crippling their dreams. I could tell you, before I even started this podcast, that was probably the biggest thing. Before I even wrote my book, the biggest thing that prevented me from even finishing it, or from starting it, I should say, was fear. That book took me probably 6 months longer to write than it should have. It took me about a year, almost exactly a year. I was probably about 2 days shy. I think it was 3 days. 3 days shy of hitting a year of writing my book, from how long it took me from start to publication. And I could have probably done it in a lot less time, if I were to add procrastination in there, just trying to do my proofing, my revision, all that stuff. But ultimately, all of that took me a lot longer than it should have, or at least a lot longer than I believe it should have taken me. And a lot of that was because of fear from the beginning all the way through. I got fear a lot of times throughout me writing the book, of whether or not I believed that the content in there was good enough. And then once I did get to the point where I believed that it was good enough, I was afraid that I wasn't conveying the message correctly, that I wasn't my grammar wasn't correct, or that when I was going through and I was explaining something, like, did I explain that good enough? Is it something that people are going to understand when they read it, or something like that. So, it hurt me for a little bit there. I couldn't finish my book in the time frame that I wanted to, but I was able to finally get through it, and I had to eliminate the fear. So you have to remember that fear is a cancer. It will destroy everything that you have going on inside of you. If you allow fear into your mind, it can really take you down. So the best advice that I can give anybody who is experiencing fear and feels like it's taking over, is you have to change your mindset. You have to look at fear as a tool in your toolbox. If you have a toolbox and you have all of these tools that you can use, and fear is one of them, I can guarantee you, on everybody's toolbox, their metaphorical toolbox, that fear is probably the one tool that has been collected, or has been collecting dust and those cobwebs, and it has the bugs crawling on it because it never gets used. But you need to use fear as a lever, and give yourself some leverage and motivation. Fear means you are being challenged. Ultimately, when you are experiencing fear, it's because you're breaking out of your comfort zone. It's new experiences. It's something that you aren't fully comfortable with. And so when you're experiencing that, it is perfectly normal for you to be experiencing fear. I noticed with myself that when I allow fear in, it's usually because I allow my mind to drift, to wander, and to go places that it shouldn't be going. So when I start thinking about, is this book good enough, or is my podcast good enough, or whatever it is, or it could be something as simple as, am I doing everything that I could possibly be doing to maximize my life, or to be the best that I can be? And then that initial thought starts running me down this path of fear. And I could tell you that it's caused some hiatuses, some delays in what it is that I'm doing, and so it can really take you down. Ultimately, if you get into the habit of getting out of your comfort zone, of putting yourself in the path of fear, I'm not saying that you need to go to every haunted house on Halloween, or you need to run in front of, try and chase down a train, or whatever it is to try and get your fear level up. But when you break out of your comfort zone, it'll challenge your mind, and it'll allow for you to adapt to these new circumstances, to really build on your fears, and so ultimately comfort, it's good to be comfortable when it comes to your couch, when it comes to your bed, when it comes to your clothes. Comfort is definitely key there, because you want to live your life comfortably, but ultimately comfort means you aren't growing. When you're going through life and you're at your job, and whether you're working inside or outside, doing whatever you're doing, if you're comfortable with what it is that you're doing, it's almost repetitive, day in, day out, doing the same thing, and you don't even have to really think about what it is that you're doing. That means that you aren't growing. You aren't being challenged. You aren't learning new skills. When you guys go back and you remember, when you first started this job that you're at, or the last job that you were at, or whatever it might be, if you were to think about the fear when you first started, or when you got offered that job, or during the interview of when they're laying down the job description and the duties of what it is that you're going to be doing, if I had to guess, or I had to bet some money on it, there was probably a little level of fear in there, and a lot of it was because you were being challenged with something new. So when you break out of your comfort zone, that is when you begin to grow as an individual. You need to make sure that you're challenging yourself constantly, and ensuring growth to be the maximized 100% version of yourself, to really unleash your true potential. When you're always focused on your fear, you're being selfish. Now, what I mean by that is when you're constantly focusing on the fear, in the sense of, this is why I'm not doing something. I'm not doing this because I'm scared. I'm afraid I'm going to fail, or I'm afraid of this. You are being selfish. Think about it. You're only thinking about you. You're constantly focused on yourself. I'm afraid of this because of because I won't do this, or because this is what's going to happen to me, or because of I'm afraid that I won't be good enough. Those are all selfish things. It sounds harsh, and I don't want it to sound like I'm being negative or trying to beat you down, but ultimately, if you embrace fear and you move on and you challenge, it's allowing for others to see what it is that you're doing, and to grow from that. When you inspire others, when you challenge yourself through fear, when you go through, and let's just say that you went and you got that dream job that you've always wanted, or you went and you wrote your own book, or you started your own podcast, or you did something different that you didn't ever believe that you were able to do. You're inspiring others. Others are watching what it is that you're doing, whether it be directly, they're face to face watching these things that you're doing, or indirectly, if just through the grapevine they hear, John Smith down the street just went and did this, and I'm completely blown away, because he's not the type to do that. You're inspiring others, because now they're like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Or, if he's not afraid to do this, I won't be afraid to do it. So ultimately, you're inspiring others to do things that they wouldn't normally do. So use fear to inspire others. I know that sounds kind of like a weird transition there, but if you're using fear and breaking out of your comfort zone, you will be inspiring others to do great things. So ultimately, what is it that you're scared of to begin with? Whatever it is, you can overcome it. If it's if it is going out and getting that job that you have never done before, or it's in a field that you've never been in, or anything like that, you can overcome. That is the beauty of humanity. Our minds are adapted to overcome. It's almost like the fight or flight thing. When we are presented with a challenge, something new that we've never done before, or something that is out of our comfort zone, our ultimate instinct is to A, fight, or B, flight. And we know what that means by fight or flight is you can either run away, or you can face whatever it is that is causing this adrenaline, this rise in your blood pressure, heart rate, everything like that, and you can overcome it. That's the beauty of what it is that we are doing as a society. So for me, again, kind of going back to my book example, when you guys go through, and if you do pick up a copy of my book and read it, you'll kind of see in there, in one of the chapters, I talk about my history as an individual, particularly in an event when I was in high school. I was horrible. I graduated, just so for all of you guys, I'm going to put it out there, I graduated with a 1.8. That's a D minus at best. So it wasn't. It's not something that I'm proud of. But ultimately, the reason for that is because I didn't really apply myself in school. It was boring to me. It wasn't fun. I know school shouldn't really be fun, but it wasn't something where I was miserable every day I went to school. So there were the classes that I hated, of course, like the typical kid. When you think about somebody who hates school, my favorite class was probably PE. I loved being an athlete. I played football. I was a musician throughout high school. Those were the things that I enjoyed. But the actual, history, English, science, those typical, math, I didn't enjoy those at all. But surprisingly enough, my worst subject was English, and I wasn't a good writer. I wasn't a good speaker. I still don't believe I'm a very good speaker or writer, but I need to challenge myself to be better at it. Kind of where I'm going with this is that when I started my book, the very first thing when I told everybody that that was close to me that I was writing this book, I got the response of, "Are you kidding me? You are horrible at this stuff. You, of all people, are going to try and write a book." The first thought was, you're right. I don't know if I am the right person to be writing a book. I'm not good at this stuff. I'm not good at being able to, it was mainly like grammar. I can't really structure sentences the correct way. I can't, when I go and type out something, I can't convey the message correctly. So when people did that, I didn't do my homework. So when I told people that I was going to do it, they kind of just, yeah, you're going to write a book. Like, I'd love to see that. And I got even the response of, great, we'll see it when it's done, which it will be never, And so people didn't believe in me, and that kind of created this little nest egg of fear about writing the book. I first started like, I'm going to do this. It's, I don't care what anybody says. And then once I started getting fed this doubt or this lack of support from everybody, it really started to kind of wear on my brain a little bit, and it was definitely discouraging, to say the least. It took a toll on me there for a little bit, but I made it my goal to prove people wrong, and I put myself in this position to grow. A person that graduated with a 1.8 and barely graduated with a 1.8. I was almost kicked out of graduation. It wasn't for anything related to school. It was because of the color of my shoes. But I was ultimately, I was almost kicked out of graduation. I was according to the stereotypes and what society would expect, I was supposed to be the typical working at McDonald's in a drive-through type of guy. A lot of people didn't think that I was capable of much more than that, just based off of my performance growing up. I was very athletic. I'm really good when it comes to musical instruments. I'm good with a lot of other things, but when it comes to doing the typical English, math, history, science, education things, the schooling part of it, definitely not my forte. Definitely not good at that stuff at all. I tried going to college for a little bit. I went for a whopping 2 semesters, 1 whole year of college, and I dropped out because it wasn't, I'm not a person to sit behind a desk, and those things didn't it was, I was afraid of going to school, mainly because I was afraid of doing something I didn't want to do, that it wasn't me. So that was kind of a different type of fear. I didn't want to be putting myself into a position of being somebody different. But when I went and did this book, people saw that I was a college dropout, and people saw that I was somebody that I was trying to be somebody that they thought I wasn't, but I wanted to be able to share my story regardless of what it took. And I had to use fear to leverage that. I had to use my fear of me being a high school not a high school dropout, a college dropout, graduating high school with a 1.8. And I had to use my fear of not being educated enough, or at least believing I wasn't educated enough to write a book or to do this podcast. And so, obviously I was able to prove everybody wrong. I have the book sitting right here for those of you watching on YouTube. It's pretty lengthy for somebody of my English capabilities. It's just shy of 200 pages. I'm very, very proud of what it is that I did, but I used fear to challenge myself to be able to do that book. I used fear to be able to challenge myself to do this podcast. I used fear to be able to overcome these things that everybody, and I mean everybody, said I couldn't do, including my parents. I had a lot of time growing up where people believed that I wasn't capable of doing much, and so I made it my goal, my mission to prove these people wrong. And so ultimately where I'm getting with all of this, and I know this was kind of a long story, but I wanted to tell you guys that if you let it, fear consumes. Fear will take over. If you believe everything that everybody says of you're not good enough, or you're not working hard enough, or you're not capable of it, who cares? Screw them. You are capable of doing magnificent, wonderful things, and you need to keep your nose to the grindstone and make it happen. But anyways, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. So go forward with use that fear. Take fear out of your toolbox, dust it off, and use that tool to leverage the maximum output in your life. It can really take a toll on you if you let it, but if you use it as a tool rather than as a crutch or as a crippling effect on your life, it can really, really change everything that you have going on. So go forward and be the best version of you. Take anything that you're scared of and throw it out the window. And so don't care what anybody says. Don't care what anybody thinks. You're capable of doing whatever it is that you want to do. But anyways, guys, if you guys have not picked up a copy of my book, it is called The Mental Shift. It is available pretty much everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, e-reader formats on Kindle and Nook. There's a couple of other websites out there that are selling it as well. But I would definitely pick up a copy. I have the links on my website, spencerkeife.com. If you guys want to go there and check it out, you're more than welcome to. There's also going to be the link to this podcast. It's going to be spencerkeife.com/5. That is spencerkeife.com/5. That is where you'll find this book. So, this podcast show notes. Excuse me. But definitely check that out, guys. Other than that, I will let you guys go. You guys go forward, shift gears, and live the most positive, happy, and abundant life you possibly can. And remember, eliminate fear. You guys have a great day.